Hi, I'm Mark Cerny. I'm excited to be here to talk about the newest addition to our console lineup, PlayStation 5 Pro, and how it advances gaming technology. But first, I want to take just a minute to look at what we put in the original PlayStation 5 and how it delivers an exceptional gaming experience.
Welcome to Between the Joysticks. Press start and then we're off. Nick and John, they've got the sauce. Breaking news and some hot takes. Even if there's some mistakes, Nick is captaining the ship, while John gives thoughts straight from the hip. But when their powers combine, we're all in for a hell of a time. Between the Joysticks, it's the best. Up to 6 things they will address. Tell all your friends and settle in. Between the Joysticks now begins.
Hello there, and welcome to episode 111 of the video game podcast, Between the Joysticks. I'm your host, Nick, and that sultry voice you're hearing is my co-host, John. John, we are Between the Joysticks, but I believe this is a PlayStation Pals podcast today.
Today it is. Today it is. We have to pay homage or homage to the greatness that's in our presence. Yes,
because it is going to be a PlayStation-heavy episode. So much PlayStation.
Okay, it's our bread and butter. It's our bread and butter. We're at our cores.
It's been a roller coaster ride for PlayStation the last week. A lot of ups and downs, which we're going to cover today. But, I've been doing the segment, Press X for drama, but the drama is pretty much related to our news topics today. So
Yeah.
So we'll
hold X for drama today.
Yeah. We'll pick it up a little bit later, but we kind of talked about it last week because it was breaking news. Do you have any more thoughts on Concord? That feels like ages ago.
It really does.
But, it was our hot take at the time because it had happened that day, the day we recorded. Do you have any more? No more news has come out about it, so
no,
more to say.
Marinating it on it a little bit more. The thing that I keep coming back to is you asking me, do I think we see this game resurface? And I was pretty quick with a yes, and I still think it's a yes. But I was way more on the assumption when we were talking about it last week that no, they're confirmed they're bringing it back, and that's not the case.
No,
that is not the case. It's offline until they figure out what it is going to happen. I still think that they have a lot of things built, and that they'll try and even if it's a half-hearted effort, we'll see it again in some way or function. I don't think it's going to succeed again, but no, man, yeah, like you said, it's just one of the more wild, whirlwindy kind of stories / weeks that I can remember, at least revolving around a specific game. Nothing about Activision Blizzard acquisitions or anything like that.
Right,
that always
right.
makes my head spin a little bit more than just a single game dying. But, unprecedented is a good word.
Yeah,
for this scenario.
Yeah, Again, it continues to be just a giant blunder when you think of all the discs that were made, the physical editions.
We're going to make a controller.
Yeah, the controller.
What are you guys doing? You never make controllers.
Yeah, like we said, the secret level for episode for Concord, all these things. And they had to have known on their end that the game was at least going to launch extremely soft. And, PlayStation has a black eye on this one for sure.
Yeah. In fairness, you greenlight the controller and the production of it probably 10 months ago or something like that. So, they probably were like, oh, pre-orders will pick up. It'll be fine.
Right.
And it just never did. No, I mean, what are they called? Free gunners?
Yeah.
Good luck out there, free gunners.
The Concord Galaxy.
Yeah, the North Star is no more. And, yeah, I mean, but yeah, not to repeat everything we said last week. Good on Sony for at least trying to refund it, make that happen. I saw an interesting point that potentially one of the reasons they're trying to actually force these refunds on people is if they can get their revenue down to zero, then they can write the game off entirely, which gives them typically a 20 to 30% back, whatever in the tax realm. So yeah, maybe. And then if they do that, I don't know how. If they legitimately have to bring that number to zero, because I saw something where Target was literally sending emails out to people that bought it and be like, hey, we're here to help you with your return process for Concord. And it's what? I didn't even start this process. So it seems like they're even going a little hard at it. But yeah, RIP in peace.
Yeah.
For now, maybe.
As we'll get into, though, we know what wipes that stain clean. One of the best reviewed games of the year. So we'll get into that.
A little metallic knight in shining armor.
Yeah, came to the rescue, literally. All right, well that's all I got because again, let's get into all this PlayStation news.
Yeah.
All right, so this is how the show works. John and I can both bring up to 3 things to talk about. It can be a news item, PlayStation 5 Pro, it's real. We got all the details. It can be a game we're playing. That Shining Knight, of course, it's Astro Bot, best reviewed game of the year, and we'll get into all that. And it can be a topic. We're going to continue our game of the year discussion. This time we're going back to 2020. Which was a very big year for video games. So this one's going to be a little harder to discuss and pick that number 1 game, but you might know which one we're going to pick. Wink.
I know which one I'm going to pick.
It can also be a message from you, the listener. You can reach out to us on Twitter at JoysticksPod, at YouTube at Between the Joysticks, or you can email in at betweenthejoysticks@gmail.com. We'll get into an email later in the show. All right, John, let's go into the breaking news. I should have looked up our predictions on this one because earlier this year...
I remember what my price prediction is.
I don't think we ever went this high, did we?
No, I was higher than you.
Okay.
But
But anyway, earlier this year we predicted that a PlayStation 5 Pro was true. All the insiders, the Tom Hendersons, have been beating that drum for a while that this thing is actually happening. As we discussed in our DEF CON level segment a few weeks ago, that this thing is imminent, that it could be part of a state of play, but nope, that's not what happened. We actually just got a 9-minute video with Mark Cerny hosting, going over the specs and what the difference will be between a standard PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 5 Pro.
A Cerny Direct.
Yeah. We got all the deets. This is a whopping $700 console.
USD.
Yep. 700 pounds, 800 euros, a ridiculous amount of yen. Very expensive piece of machine. It's 2 terabyte drive, no disk drive. It is coming November 7th. And if you are bold enough to pre-order, you can start doing that September 26th. Let's go with that basic information just up front there, John, the price tag.
Yeah.
With no disk drive.
That's the hold X for drama right there. I predicted $649.
Okay.
So, and I remember you were at $550 or $599.
Okay.
Yeah, it's high. I mean, there's no denying it's high. Especially for what I feel we're getting for the machine. I mean, we all kind of knew ahead of this what this device would do. It wasn't going to, do anything else besides play video games. It's not going to give you a blowy while you're playing Astro Bot, but, it makes games run faster, where you're not really choosing between the fidelity and performance and stuff like that. But a $300 increase, well, PS5 was $500.
Yes.
So a $200 increase on the base model.
With a disk drive.
With the disk drive, you have to buy the stand separately. That's something that you didn't mention, which I find, if you want to stand it vertically. This new model of the PlayStation 5 does have a built-in stand, which is a little different from the launch options that Nick and I have, where you have like a separate thing that you kind of slide onto the bottom to get it to stand horizontally. But it does seem a little aggressive at first, right? And
sure, sticker shock.
Yeah, sticker shock for sure. And I want to, I was kind of little up in arms a little earlier with Nick here, kind of before, as we were prepping for the show, just based on everybody's comments online. And I don't want to sound like I am defending a corporation or, making light of how much money $700 is for a lot of people out there. Right? That mean even for us, we got this really, really super successful podcast, right? But $700 is not cheap. But this is the reality we live in, right? When you look at the inflation around the world, the economic realities, you see how much cost of goods, food, all that stuff, these hot button issues that we've been talking about in the political landscape since COVID happened, the video game industry is not immune to that. So I want to say that first and foremost. Yeah. Secondly,
and current consoles have not gone down in price.
Yeah, that's another thing, right?
In some countries, they've gone up.
Yep. I mean, and they've just announced that controllers got increased. We didn't write that up today, but there's a $5 worldwide global DualSense increase. So, like, this is just the economic reality. And if you also know a little bit about how video games are, and I'm not saying this is 100% the case, maybe we'll get some data in the future that shows otherwise, but console makers are not interested in making money off of consoles. That's not why they make them. They make almost all of their money on software. That's not to say that
they're
they
usually sold at a loss.
Yeah, usually at a loss, and if not at a loss, very, very small margins. Again, I'm not saying that this is the case here, but I would be shocked if it wasn't. And so when you add all these extra pieces of tech into it, you increase the GPU size, or is it CPU size? Which one got increased?
GPU.
Yeah, when you do all that kind of stuff, it adds to the machine and makes it more expensive. You add an extra terabyte onto this thing, it makes it more expensive. So it is a boutique item. You don't have to buy it, right? This is something for somebody who wants the absolute best experience. And like when you go, I made this analogy earlier, when you go and buy a car, when you go and buy a brand new Tahoe, right? There's different options. You can get the base model, you can get the mid one that's going to kind of give you some leather seats, or you can get the tricked out awesome version with blacked out wheels and all that stuff. It's like you don't have to buy that one, but it's there if you want it. So that's kind of where I'm landing here. I'm a little disappointed personally. Like, I don't think this is going to be for me. Just at that price point. I don't know if you wanted to wait to ask that question. I'm sure you did. But we can get into that a little bit here. But that's kind of like my immediate takeaways. I don't think it's doing enough for me to want to buy one. The price point is sticker shock. It is very high, but I don't think it's outside the realm of, like, I don't think this is a greedy corporation scenario. Maybe it is. Again, that's why, maybe they're like, Sony's like, Xbox is floundering. We don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, there's no Switch 2 yet.
Add an extra $50 or $100 and let's bump our profits up. But for right now, it's just an expensive piece of kit.
Yeah. Again, we're like, I don't know. I don't want to be considering us fanboys, but I just think we have the rational take on these things. It's like you said, it is a luxury item. So most people are not going to buy this anyway.
Right.
And it is expensive. Like $700 is nothing to scoff at. But, as John and I know, like, your console maintains its value, right? So if I wanted to get this, I can get $400 off just by returning my PlayStation 5. Mm-hmm. That's how much local stores in the U.S. and that's just, their price. I'm sure you could maybe get $450 for it. Sure. if you wanted to sell it privately. So you could make up most of the cost here. And then when you go to sell your PlayStation 5 Pro, you're going to get that difference back.
Right.
If not make money on it, you don't know how these things are. Earlier, a couple of years ago, you sold your PlayStation 4 for, what, $220?
Yeah, I had my PS4 for 8 years, bought it at launch for, what, $400, and sold it for $220. So I have $180 for 8 years of amazing experiences. That's pretty good value.
Yes, yeah, same here. I bought a PlayStation 4 Pro in 2017 for $400, and I sold it in 2021 for $300. Yeah. So it's like these things maintain their value, but yeah, I understand people's reaction. It's the internet, they're gonna blow their lid about everything ever. It's cool to hate on PlayStation. It's cool to hate on a $700 console, but if you take a step back, especially in the U.S., other countries I know it's a lot more expensive. Yeah. Pal of the show Jesse said how much it is in New Zealand, and I was like, whoa, yeah, that's a beefy boy, but it is what it is. But let's kind of get into the presentation, because what he actually showed is what the difference is, and you kind of touched on it a bit. Because in layman's terms, what they're trying to do is really get rid of that having to make that choice in most games, between fidelity, running the game at 30 frames per second and having all the graphic options turned up, or running it in fidelity mode or performance mode, where the frame rate's up and then all the graphic options are toned down so you can try and maintain that 60 frames per second. So what this console is trying to do is just eliminate that entirely. And so we got a lot of footage of The Last of Us Part 2 and Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart side by side, And, it's kind of hard to tell, but it's there. It's slight. You're getting more visual fidelity, like further in the distance. The game's running a lot smoother in the case of like The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. And you're seeing a lot of games at launch that will have this be enhanced by playing on PlayStation 5 Pro. And those games are Alan Wake 2, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Demon's Souls, Dragon's Dogma 2, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Gran Turismo 7, Hogwarts Legacy, Horizon Forbidden West, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, The Crew Motorfest, The First Descendant, and then The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. So a decent list of games, but I don't think any of this helped the case. Like you weren't getting blown away by what you saw here.
No. And that was kind of, one of my main takeaways, right? Like Cerny, when he was making the presentation, they kind of said that they were looking at three major tentpoles. One was larger GPU, advanced ray tracing, and AI-driven upscaling. And like you said, even doing the side-by-sides, I had to take a second to even kind of notice the difference. And I'm never super, focused on that kind of stuff. It's like if a game feels good, if it looks good, I'm good. So the marginal increases that this seems to be doing, it's not going to sell anybody.
It's kind of hard to especially you're watching it on YouTube.
Yep.
And you're watching on whatever your monitor displays at, and so that you got to factor that in. It'd be great to get a PS5 Pro and have Digital Foundry look at it, and that they actually go through. Yeah, and they will, of course. Or even just John's got a 70-inch C2,
77-inch. I think it's a C1.
Oh, you got C1.
Yeah.
God. They're already at C4s.
I know. It makes me feel like an idiot.
At home, and I bet on your TV we would probably notice a difference if we were to just sit there and switch inputs between the two consoles at the same moments. But I think the video really struggled to nail that point home, and not coupling this with like we were saying with new game announcements. Games that would really take advantage of this, because Last of Us Part 2 Remastered is a 4-year-old game already remastered for PlayStation 5. And the only game not out is Assassin's Creed Shadows, and I'm sure that'll look fine. But
my guess is that they wanted to do I think we're gonna see that list increase substantially here soon. Is my hope.
The rumors are this will be a state of play next week.
Right, and so. It makes sense to me. Put out this video now, get the boring stuff out of the way, the price, the date, whatever, and then that way, hopefully, at the next state of play, we see, hey, and also, Ghost of Tsushima 2 is enhanced. We couldn't say that today because then we would have blown our load, not our lid, like you said earlier. And so, hopefully we start to see, obviously, if there's going to be teams that take advantage of this to the most degree, it's a first-party team, So that may be a bigger eye-opening thing. And I just, did you mention PSSR?
No,
okay.
Which is their upscaling. They all have it now.
Yeah, and I want to know a little bit. I want to see that fleshed out a little bit more and just kind of see what it truly does, because I think that might be the secret tech here, that if this is going to kind of blow us away, maybe it is you need to see it to believe it type of thing.
Sure.
But the PSSR, where it's using AI to kind of fill in gaps and upscale it effectively.
Sure.
See how that looks. But I don't know, man. Yeah, it's just games look so good nowadays that it's every single generation we get further on, right? We started with the PS4, now we're in the PS5 Pro. A PS6 Pro, it's going to be, I feel even smaller, if they end up doing one. So again, my final takeaway is just it's incredibly boutique. It's incredibly for the high-end player. Nick and I don't know anybody in my life that's a higher level player than us, and we're not even really kind of interested in this, at least without potentially, selling a bunch of stuff.
Hold the phone.
Oh, okay. Nick might get this. I don't want it. There's really no reason for me to do it. But I'm not gonna fault anybody who wants it. I'm not gonna blame Sony for having the option. The PS5 is still there if you want it. It's a great machine, and plays all the same games.
So my hold the phone is right now not feeling it, but as this generation continues on and games are looking better and better and bigger games, get tied to this thing.
Like your Grand Theft Auto 6.
Yep. I mean, that's the elephant in the room, right? Grand Theft Auto 6 is not coming to PC day and date with consoles. It's currently just announced for consoles. If that game takes advantage of a PlayStation 5 Pro, now you're saying there's the best location to play the biggest game of the year. It's going to look the best. It's going to have
Hades 2 is coming out next year.
Yeah, it'll really take advantage. But stuff like that, more games like of that caliber, Last of Us Part 3, Ghost of Tsushima 2, the more games you hear about that are taking advantage of this thing, it's going to start looking more and more appealing.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, though. Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out. It runs 60 frames on PS5 base, but it runs 120 and it looks way crisper on the Pro. Is that enough for you to be like, oh, I have to play this at the best possible way?
Again, for me, it would be a consideration for sure.
Like, also, Grand Theft Auto 6 is probably not running at 60 frames, so let's be real.
But I mean, money changes. I'm having like the worst financial year of my life, so right now not going to happen.
Homeownership's stupid.
But come next year, I get my hands on a C4, an OLED C4 television, an LG TV. And then now I want the console to play the games the best.
That's what you need to do is don't look at buying the C4 as a thing. Look at it buying all of it. Like when you make that decision, just tack on an extra $500.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah. But I'm open. My heart is open to purchasing this thing if the cards align, if the games are there, my home setup improves. That would take advantage of this. I could see myself pulling the trigger, but yeah, I don't think this was a very poor showing for it out of the gate. There's just not enough.
Yeah, and I don't even know how you could show it.
Well, like you said, it'd have to be part of a larger presentation where new games were announced, showing off. Oh. This is Ghost of Tsushima 2 running on a PlayStation 5 Pro.
Yeah,
there's this game, PlayStation 5 Pro, but.
I just need to see some hard differences, like the stat sheets lined up of games on one versus the other, you know, in a variety of games, right? A Grand Theft Auto, but then also like something like an Ori or a really fast-moving quick game, or I don't know, like just a variety of things.
And those breakdowns will be coming. Like I'm sure Digital Foundry will just will go down the list. This is like what the game runs on this one and this one, and then you can make a better decision when Alan Wake 2 is running, 60 frames full graphic options turned on a PS5 Pro, and then just 30 frames on the base PS5. But I don't hate it. It's a lot.
You think scalpers are going to be all over this, or do you think that price point is so high that like you can't really raise it much?
They'll try. They'll for sure try. But
one point I thought I did have about this is this is obviously a device for the highest end of gamer, right? It's interesting that it doesn't have a disk drive, which I get. This is the direction of the industry, but like in my experience and me personally, and thinking about the people I know, friend of the show Will being one of them, when you get into that high end space, you typically lean towards physical. At least I do, and that goes for movies too. When you start to get to that 4K movie, when you're like, I care about 4K, I want it physical because it just. So I'm wondering if they're kind of just like throwing their middle finger up and be like, well, just buy the disc drive then, and it's whatever, or I don't know. Because I know it seems like a lot of people are getting hung up on there's no disc drive, so really it's an $800 machine for the people who want that.
Right.
Which I don't difference between $700 and $800 is it is a difference, but I don't know. Yeah, it's just an interesting thought I had.
Yeah, I mean I think we both predicted it to be discless, but we did think it was going to be cheaper.
yeah.
Out of the gate.
Inflation.
Yeah. All right.
Inflation.
All right, so let's move on to the big game release, because again, that roller coaster that PlayStation is on this week. They also released Astro Bot. John and I have both played it and completed it.
It's our most anticipated game of the year. Or maybe Outlaws was for you. But sorry, I think I made that
Well,
mistake
this game was not announced at the beginning of the year.
Gotcha.
So, like, obviously a pleasant surprise that it was announced. And then, we were all blown away by that trailer. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, the game is out. I want to save the review discussions at the end because it is sitting at a whopping 95 on OpenCritic. Yes. That's better than Shadow of the Erd Tree. That's better than Baldur's Gate last year. But I want to talk about that after that. So I want to get our earliest impressions of the game. But, John, you knew this question was coming. I want you to say something bad about the game.
Oh, we're starting with negatives?
Yeah. We got to start with negatives because obviously we're going to gush about this game. But I want you to say something negative.
Okay.
And I want you to look into his eyes. I want you to look into Astro Bot's eyes.
Oh, man, he's with a penguin, too, my favorite animal.
I want you to look into his eyes.
Astro Bot.
And then tell him, what's bad about my game?
Oh, Astro Bot.
I'm a 95. There can't possibly be something wrong.
Well, Mr. Bot, you're amazing in almost every single way.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, your main competitor, your main point of comparison is a certain plumber across the aisleway named Mario. And I think you're as good as Mario is in many, many, many ways, better in some. But I think we could have done a little bit better with your moveset. And that's not to take away the amount of abilities and pickups and power-ups and things you get throughout this game that make it refreshing. And I'm staring right into his eyes this whole time. Sorry about this. Refreshing the whole experience through. But to not have some sort of double jump, wall bounce, slide, like dodge. I don't know. It just felt at times, okay, I have a punch, I have a charge up punch, and I have my lasers, and that's it. And I wish there was maybe a little more physics at play when I think of like Mario. I think of holding a trigger, pressing jump. He does the triple backflip thing that gets him really high up, wall bouncing, using your hat in Odyssey and then jumping off that. So if I were to say anything, Astrobot, next game in Astrobot 2, try and rope some of that in. But again, that's not for lack of variety. Your variety is this game has in spades. So that's about as good as I can do.
Good. And I do want to say we're not going to spoil a lot of the game because I think a lot of the fun is the mechanics later in the game, the cameos, of course, from the VIP bots and stuff like that. So we're just going to limit it to like the very first stages of the game.
You trash him now too. You trash him.
but no, you're right. If you played Astro's Playroom, which is the free pack-in game for the PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 5 Pro, that is in the blog post.
Yeah.
The Astro's Playroom is free. This is basically a sequel to that game, and the very basic moveset. You punch, you have a extended glide, and which is the little lasers, and then you have the jump. And then it requires like unlockables in the environment for other traversal mechanics. That being said, it feels very good. Like it's a very good playing game. But I feel that.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of levels, like smaller levels in the game that are kind of a shorter, more challenge run type of experience where you can kind of get through in 2-3 minutes if you do it right.
Love them.
And every single one of those, I'm jumping, I'm crossing gaps, everything's tight, he's moving exactly where I want it to. And if you played Playroom and know those time trials, like those are really fun as well. So it's not for lack of I don't know. It's just I don't know. It's just that's you put me in a corner. All right, and that's what I had to.
I think you're right. I think the base moves is as simple as it gets. There's nothing complicated about it. And I have a few things.
Sure.
I think I told you the soundtrack's not as good as Astro's Playroom,
despite a couple of high notes.
Yeah, there are some really good songs in this game, but it definitely overall not as every level is a banger in Astro's Playroom. Here, not so much. They're still really good. They're just not as iconic. But
and I do think I agree, and I think it is also just he had 4. The Kenneth Young, right?
Yeah, Kenneth CM Young.
Yeah, he had 4 main stages in Playroom that he had to dedicate, right? And this one is like I don't know how many proper stages there are.
Yeah,
a
lot.
But yeah, so it's a much bigger. They reused a lot of songs and things like that, and it all sounds great. But yeah, you're right. The variety and just not as memorable.
Yeah. And then my other complaint is, so this game has a gacha mechanic. So when you rescue VIP bots, you can also unlock an item to go with them, and then they interact with that item in the main hub world. Very similar to Astro's Playroom, where all the PlayStation peripherals lived. But you also can get your ship as a controller. You get other controller colors, and you also get costume unlocks. And since it, for whatever reason, it prioritizes the VIP bot items, that I didn't get a lot of the gray costumes until the very end of the game. Yeah. When I'm done and I'm like, oh, I can't really use these, you know.
Yeah,
and the costumes are very fun.
They are good. They're really well done. I didn't think about this until just this moment, but tell me if you feel the same way. Like when I go through these kind of games, right? These 3D platformers, Rayman, Astro Bot, Mario, you always get hit with these barriers, right? Where it's like you need X amount of things to continue. Right. I don't know about you. I'm always like 40 over that number, like 50 over that number, because we're completionists. And I wonder if they're just like, well, if people don't play that way, they're going to get a lot more costumes, right? And so like,
that's very good point.
You know, and so like
they're replaying the levels a lot more,
right? And so maybe they're just like, okay, cool. Like they found the balance for the average gamer. Nick and I and a lot of people. We're just psychos, and we got to get every single bot possible now.
Yeah, I didn't leave a level without getting all the bots.
I can't move on until then.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll say a smidge our fault, but also over.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that. You're right. If I was like, oh, I'll come back for the bots I missed, and then I'm replaying the levels more. Yeah. You're right. I would have less bots, which mean I would get the costumes quicker.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So good point. And then finally, I want to talk about the game's length. You know, when I posted to Twitter that I had platinumed the game, I had some comments that were like, "Wow, that was fast
already," and
it was fast.
Yeah.
But my in-game clock was only 12 hours, and this is priced as a $60 game, so there is a little bit of difference. It's not that it doesn't have that $10 increase, that premium price. But do you think the game's too short?
No.
Okay.
You've platinum it. I have 250 bots out of 300. I've rolled credits, but I got to do some cleanup. I am very sad that my journey's almost over.
Yeah.
But I think 12 hours, and this is a general conversation around this game right now too, is a very acceptable, appropriate length that manages budget and development time into the equation, and I think that's a more than okay package for a $60 buy or game.
Yeah.
Especially, we're talking
over 80 levels, so
right. And some of those levels again, you can beat them in a minute, like quite literally. But I would say, there's 5 main worlds, and then there's 4 main levels and a boss level, and then a bonus level in each of those. So that's at least 30 strong worlds.
Yeah.
And at 12 hours, I think it's on the shorter side.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a problem.
And it sounds like the game's getting more content, not just in kind of speed trials, but it sounds like more VIP bots. If you look at the credits of the game, thanking companies that don't have a bot in the game yet. So I wonder.
Oh my god, dude! If they just released every 6 months a DLC pack for a different world with a different publisher or something, that'd be the best thing ever.
Oh my god, yeah,
it'd be amazing. Because that is a major glare, and weirdly enough, again, spoiler. If you're extremely sensitive to any spoilers in this game, you might want to skip the rest of this conversation. But I promise this is light. There's no Square Enix characters in the game, which is interesting, right? Like you would think with a game that's honoring the history of PlayStation, where a main point of it is to kind of celebrate all that it is for the past 30 years. Final Fantasy VII is one of the biggest, most important games on the entire.
All of them.
All of them, for sure, but that one specifically.
Specifically. The 3D one, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah. But Cloud Strife is he's not a mascot level for PlayStation, but he's close.
Right.
So for them not to be there is interesting. And so why? What is it a money thing? Is it a prestige thing? What's going on? But yeah,
I think you're right. It's coming.
Yeah. Where we're just we're going to get a full blown Square Enix world.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Because I didn't. Yeah.
All right.
Sorry. Yeah. Go.
No. We can just get into our general impressions. Now, like I said, everyone is gushing about the game. I figure let's lead off with the not so great things, the very small not so great things.
That was my Tears of the Kingdom method.
But obviously, I think your overall impressions are great. It's a great 3D platform. It's amazing. It's a great ride of a game that had a lot of great humor involving the bots and the writing and the character descriptions, and just great boss. All the boss encounters are just phenomenal.
Way better than I thought than they had any right to be.
And even they have the main bosses, and even all the mini bosses are just great. And then discovering that they have levels dedicated to specific franchises with remix soundtracks and remix mechanics from those games. It's just from an overall package, it's a celebration of video games in the most adorable package ever.
Yep.
And mimicking one of the greatest franchises of all time, and that's 3D Mario. Like it's in the same boat, even if Astro Bot doesn't play as well as Mario does. It's that level of care and love and charm and joy that we all saw in that trailer a couple of months ago that is in this game. And it's just it's gaming heaven, as I referred to it.
Yeah. I mean, I think PlayStation in one specific way out Nintendo with this one, and that is the level of love and detail to the different games and characters that have been on the system. I think of a game like Super Smash Brothers, which is an incredible celebration of Nintendo and everything that's made it, including
that's a very similar game to this, as far as the celebration point. Yeah.
And it has an incredible third-party presence. But like when it comes to like the extras, right? And you get stickers, and like I'm not going to go in and look through my stickers, but you better believe, like Nick mentioned, you get a special animation with every single one of these characters when you unlock it in the gacha thing. And going into the hub world and finding that character that you love, that you've, I'll use me as an example. There's an Ellie Astro Bot, right?
Yeah.
As we know there would be. And I was like, oh, it's Ellie. Like, I love Ellie. And then so I went and found her in the world and hit her, which just activates the little animation in it. And I know Nick had a really, really funny one with Snake, who he absolutely loves. And you just have so many of those moments that it really it's all the sum of the wholes is greater than, or the sum of the parts is greater than the whole, whatever that phrase is. I'm really bad at phrases on this show. It really does come together to be something truly. I had a big dumb grin on my face the whole time.
Yeah.
The whole time I'm playing this game.
Yeah. Especially with like when you mentioned the Metal Gear one, that's like one of the first levels is all the Metal Gear Solid characters. So it's like Snake into Psycho Mantis into Gray Fox, and you're just like, oh my God.
I wasn't expecting to see those guys. Like I was expecting to see Snake and those big time characters, but I didn't know how into the weeds they'd get. And to see a little Psycho Mantis was kind of funny.
Yeah, and then as you mentioned, it's like you got the descriptions of these characters.
Yeah.
We joked about the one for Joel is like occasionally tells a little white lie, and
it's
like and then on top of that, then you go to the gacha machine and you unlock their extra thing, and for Snake it's a box, of course. Mm-hmm. And then you go over, you find him in the crash site, you hit him in the bounce, and he's shocked because he has a dirty magazine with sexy Astro Bots in it. And then he closes the box, and then he like peeks up and grabs the magazine and sucks it in, and you're just like,
and on his little cute face, he's got little hearts for eyes. Like it's just like there's so much little personality bursting through this character. It's great.
And then you times that by the 150 VIP bots that are in the game, and all have their own little animations and are drawn from PlayStation Now till PlayStation 1, and you're just it's overwhelming and great. And the best moments are finding those cameos that you like, those characters that you love, showing up and being just pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. One thing I want to talk about with this game too is how well the team over at Asobi understands just the pure basic concept of fun, which I know seems like, it's a video game. Everybody should understand fun, but not to this degree. You go into this game and you expect to go into the worlds and the levels and find the bots and collect the coins, and all that's fun. What I didn't expect was to be engaged while I'm on the world map, and I'm like, what's that floating over there? And it's like a little asteroid belt. And like when I flew my little controller ship over there and ran into them, once I ran into all of them, it created a new galaxy. I'm like, whoa, I didn't expect that. Or the typical thing of, the credits are a little extra, and those are fun, and that's nothing new. There's been a lot of games that do that, but every little thing is it scratches my video game brain of like, ooh, what's next? Here's this little level that takes 1 minute where I would just kind of typically do that level and move on. I was like, oh, but you have a VIP bot. Who's it gonna be? Makes the reward fun, right?
Or even when the level was themed a certain way, because you realize like they try to tie them best to like a level that fits them.
Yeah.
Like the Metal Gear characters. It was a winter level because in the first Metal Gear Solid,
Shadow Moses.
Yeah, Shadow Moses is in snow. So every level is like I'm just like. What fits best, with this theme and
or you start to gather all these Astrobots and you go to the homeworld, and they made the homeworld incredibly fun. Where it's like even in Playroom, it's like I don't really want to be here. I'm just going to go into a world. But in this, I was like, okay, first of all, I get to get surrounded by my 250 friends. I like refer to them as my friends. That's how much I like them. They all hover around you. You can hit a button and start a little dance party. But then as you start to explore the crash site, as it's referred to, you realize like, okay, there's all these little blue pillars and like they have numbers next to them, and if you have a certain amount of bots, you can unlock that area or that special thing, and all that was even kind of fun and engaging because it's not just like, oh, you unlock the thing, here's the door opens up. It's like, no, these Astrobots are creating a wall that you can run up or a rope thing you can glide across or whatever. It just really feels so joyful in just the purest video gamey way, and it's a game I can recommend this game to anybody.
Yeah.
That's another special thing about it. I'm playing it with my son. It's a great father-son experience. Playing it by myself and going for the platinum has been great. I've texted my friend out in Colorado who's just a Rocket League Call of Duty guy. I'm like, dude, you got to make time for this, because I think there's a lot of people, especially our age, who are in our mid-30s, who we're getting to the jaded part of our lives. We're getting to we're a little cynical. We've seen everything there is to see. And to find something that kind of recaptures that dumb grin face thing that you have when you're a kid, it's few and far between nowadays. And this is one that can get you there. And so, yeah, I mean, I think like this launched Team Asobi into that top-tier Sony, it's Naughty Dog and Sucker Punch and Asobi, and and there's other ones too, of course. Sony Santa Monica, blah 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 blah. But, I mean, I can't sing enough praises of this game, man.
No, yeah, the overall package is great. I'm glad you mentioned that the world map is this interactive space that you fly through and discover secrets in there as well. There's just so much going on here.
Yeah, when I first started the game and I got into the first world, I kind of remember feeling like, it's just more of this. Where it's like, okay, there's a world, there's go do these levels, whatever. And it's great, and it's all fun and wonderful. But, yeah, then it started to just give me a little more, and then give me a little more, and then give me a little more, and then give me a little more, until the point where I'm just like, the checkmark brain in me is like, I got to see my Astrobot numbers go up. I got to see who there is.
What really got me is you find these altars that are dedicated to the face buttons on the controller, circle, X, triangle, and you go and you unlock these altars, and then they unlock these 4 worlds, and then you go to those, and you find out that you catch on very quickly that these are the challenge levels. These are like, oh shit, like I got to pay attention.
We're gonna turn it up a bit.
There's no checkpointing. You have to beat it all in one run, and it's involving all the mechanics you're used to, but it's like this is the hard mode. You could very well see this is where the time trials are going to come into play when they add those to the game. And just like the game is not very hard, but those actually invite that challenge. And I found myself getting stuck at quite a few of them, but in loving it the whole time.
Yeah, I'm glad they did those because, I agree. If that might be a good answer for what's something you can say bad about this game, it's a little on the easy side, at least. But, I'm not mad about it. I don't want to struggle in a game like this. Right. That's not the point. What do you think about the camera spots? Like where you a little thing where you can kind of just walk up to it and then take a picture.
I was confused by them at first because so there's what are those things called? You put your face through them and you
go to Cedar Point and there's a stockade thing, right? And you put your face in it and your family takes a picture.
An amusement park,
right?
John likes to talk like everyone knows.
Everybody knows what Cedar Point is.
We're a global podcast, all right?
That's true. All right, everybody.
International podcast.
Disney World.
But anyway, and it introduces them very early on, and you don't know what. I thought I was supposed to do something.
Yeah, same. I'm hitting it.
I'm hitting the share button, obviously, to take pictures, and I'm like, oh, is this just a way you can promote the game on social media, right? And it's not till later in the game that you actually unlock an in-game camera that they're actually used for.
Yeah. I'm surprised those weren't tied to a trophy.
they're charming. Like all the enemies and anything around you
Creates a little scene.
Yeah, they create a little scene around you. So like some levels have huge enemies in it, and then they sneak in and get a smile in.
Big robot.
But yeah, it's just more part of the charm.
Yeah.
But I was confused at them at first because you can't interact with them really that much.
Who is your one cameo miss? Who is the one person that you wish was in there that you stumbled across?
That's hard, man. That's hard to say.
Is there a little Geralt?
No, there was no like
little Geralt?
CD Projekt Red stuff, which
Yeah.
would be fun. But
It'd be cool, and like obviously it would never happen if they had like a Mass Effect like crew.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
For me, it's 2B. Like no,
Right.
no 2B. Obviously, I was waiting, and then I saw that article about no Square Enix. Like, God, a little Zach.
I thought one of them was, but it was ended up being Gravity Rush.
Yeah.
I was like, is this a character from Nier? But no, I think it's pretty good. A lot of the cameos I don't know because there were just so many older JRPGs, older horror games, especially that PS1, PS2 era, that I didn't know. But
that did remind me. I wish that they, when you got the VIP characters, it just put in parentheses
what game it is.
who it is or what game it is, because there's a ton of spiky haired robe Japanese looking costume characters out here, and I was like, I don't, you're from Ark the Lad. Oh, okay. You're from Dark Cloud. Okay.
yeah,
So,
yeah. So
but yeah, man, those levels at those bonus levels. Oh my God. Like we won't say what they are. We'll let everybody discover those themselves. The end of the second world, I was thinking about this. You know how you have like levels in video games, right? There's like levels and then there's dedicated levels, right? Where it's like, oh, this is a stage in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but it's not really a level. But these are levels, right? These are something you go into. It's a Mario style thing. It might be the single greatest level of anything I've ever played in my life.
Yeah.
I love it.
I
love
don't.
it so
Yeah, you're
much.
right. We shouldn't spoil it. So I'm actually gonna change the end song because we'll.
Okay.
Because I don't want to. You're right.
We can do that. We'll bring that next week.
Yeah.
But like it was like when you get to the first one, and like you realize what they're doing. It's just fun to be like, ooh, what are the other ones gonna be? And I was able to guess two of.
A snow level. This level is remixing the game is music. You're getting mechanics from that game, and again, yeah, they're at the end of every level.
Yeah,
so.
you beat the boss, and then you're like, you got to go do this to get the item that you need.
Yep. And they're amazing. All of them are great. Yeah, it's that was the other part of just yes. What am I going to see next?
I am very. I don't care about spoilers in most things. Like I'll spoil it for myself. I try not to spoil for other people. I'll never do that purposefully. But like for myself, I really typically don't care. This was one I had to I was like, I am not going to look. I do not want to know. Unfortunately, one I kind of just inferred based on some trophies. Stay away from the trophies if you want to be genuinely surprised. It's also one of those. But yeah, it's such an interestingly timed release too, like right after Concord. Like, I know now it's sandwiched between Concord and the $700 Pro, where people are like, "Brr." But like, yeah, what a well-timed release for Sony to kind of just be like, no, we still got it.
Right.
But it also is interesting in the sense that like, single player, short thing. Maybe you guys should just stick with those. Don't go into the live service world, but
right. Yeah, let's get into the review score now. Like, it is the best reviewed game of the year by far. Is the review score too high?
Slightly. Slightly too high. I'm not going to say way too high. Slightly too high.
I mean, games very rarely get to this point.
Yeah. It's interesting because, and I've said this on the podcast many times, but I feel like when I evaluate a game, I evaluate it for what it is trying to accomplish, right? This is not a game that needs a long, drawn-out narrative. It's not a game that needs, really fleshed-out characters. It's a 3D platformer, and it's meant to be joyful and joyous and all that good stuff. But, yeah, a 95 is typically reserved for, like, the next big Zelda, But, like, that's where I kind of get hung up because I do think that this is right there with, like, a Mario Galaxy. A Mario Odyssey got a 97. the Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, those are like 96s, 97s.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I don't know, it kind of is there. Like if I was working for Eurogamer, and I do get to actually review a thing, right? I can say that here in a second. I'd probably give it the perfect score just based on what it's setting out to do. Right. I think that is part of the equation. Like, yeah, you could say, well, it's got nothing on the breadth of Baldur's Gate and the level of complexity and the character interaction. But like, I don't know, when I go to play a video game, I'm not really looking for that as much as I am for just a tight, fun thing that I can unwind at the end of the day. And for that, it is a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
So
and you don't always want to do that comparison anyway. They're different games trying to do different things. But I think, like you said, when you're looking at a game, what is it trying to do?
And to kind of go back to the Mario Odyssey comparison, that might be the best game to compare it against because it's kind of one of the more recent examples of a top tier 95 plus 3D platformer. And I will say, there's 1,000 moons in that game. They're hidden in crazy ways.
Right.
Like there's a lot more of a game there.
Mm-hmm.
So like maybe you bring Astro Bot down for just the package. It is, but again, I have a hard time knocking a game for that also.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. It's definitely plus 9, plus 90.
Right. Right.
I don't know. What do you think?
No, I mean, the game's a 10 for me, so
right. That's so it's hard. It's a hard thing to rationalize.
But I don't. But the industry is so different about that kind of stuff. They barely give them out. A lot of people are just going to shit on games.
I think it got definitely a little bump for the it's very smart what they did. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but like just the video game celebration bump, right?
Right.
Where it's like, I love Ark the Lad just because he's in my head. Oh, they got Ark the Lad in here. Holy shit. And that just lifts your mood up. It just lifts your thought, your feelings, and your vibes. And that then carries you into the next part. And then you go, oh my God, that boss fight was so good.
And definitely 3D platformers like this, I think, like you said, they take you back to a time, right?
This is like pure video game shit.
It's nostalgia. We're starved for them. There's not a lot of them out there. It's like this Mario Odyssey, Crash 4. Like there's not a lot out there that are bringing this kind of experience, and especially at this kind of perfection.
That's why I'd love like a new Spyro game or something.
So yeah, it probably is appropriate. Maybe slightly maybe 2 points high or something, but that's like getting into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, then we're just being pedantic.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And that being said, is this game of the year? The Keeleys, well, it's definitely one of the 6 nominees for game of the year.
Pedantic means like a pendant, so that's not the word. But whatever. Sorry.
Is it game of the year?
Yes.
You think it is?
I think it is. I mean, obviously, we can think of the games that have been released thus far. I think your front runners are Rebirth, this. I could see Balatro sneaking in there. But I don't see really anything else, quite honestly, in that top tier. And then games that are coming out in the future, we have Metaphor. That's a very, very big possibility. And we have
Age.
Zelda.
And Zelda.
Yeah, I don't think Dragon Age can get to this level, personally. I hope so, but maybe.
We'll
I think Zelda and Metaphor is probably its biggest competition, honestly. And honestly, I haven't thought about that game until just this moment also. But I'm gonna say yes. I'm just gonna say that it's going to capture the minds and hearts of too many people.
Yeah,
and they push it through.
The game's accessibility will definitely help with that. Like Metaphor might be really good, but is that many people playing that game?
I think Metaphor will be the people who are into it. That's their clear number one, and then everybody else is just like, yeah, okay, it's fine, but Astro Bot.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think you're right. I don't think Balatro will probably be the indie game of the year, but I don't think it'll. It might make the 6.
It's Rebirth, Astro Bot, and Metaphor. Those are the 3, I think.
Okay.
I mean, and then you never count out Zelda, but I just think Zelda's had a little bit too much time in the spotlight the past 5-6 years. So they'll let it spread out, even if Zelda.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, a lot of these games are a month from now will be out. So, but yeah, it is probably the strongest contender as of right now to win it all, and that's Incredible.
Favorite cameo? Go.
Oh, it was definitely the Metal Gear.
It was
yeah, and then the 3, Gray Fox and Psycho Mantis, and then also their gotcha.
I like
stuff.
I don't want to spoil most of it, but I gotta throw 2 out. 2 people. Mimir, super awesome. Just his little rolling head. And then I liked what they did with a lot of characters, but I'm just going to call it specifically like the Resogun ship. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like they just have him just flying above all the Astro Bots like in the homeworld. And so I kind of wasn't expecting a couple of not really humanoid type characters that they threw in there.
Yeah. I remember one I ran into Spyro himself, and then Okami.
Yeah, that was a cool one.
And these are the most
it's
very early.
Amaterasu.
Yeah, Amaterasu. Yeah. But seeing those, I was like, oh, that's great. Like, again, weirdly showcasing those, especially Amaterasu.
I wasn't expecting
that's a one game. Capcom has so many other characters they could have put in there, but it was cool to see that. But I think, again, the future of this game, I think more of these VIP bots are coming. So,
do you think this is the beginning of a Astroverse, where we're gonna get a kart game, or we're gonna see different genres start to come out, or what do you think? Like, what would you like? Because Asobi's a small team.
Yeah, but somebody else can make the game. I wouldn't be shocked if there were other.
I know Herman Holst was quoted saying Astro Bot is a very, very important franchise to
us.
this
game itself is getting a sequel, whether or not it spins off into its own Mario-esque tennis and all that.
I just wonder.
It's possible.
I think they're gonna. I have this feeling that the sales numbers are going to be way better than they thought and what we thought. I think this game's going to sell. It's going to have long legs. It's obviously, if we look at the movie industry, what's the one type of movie that's immune to anything? It's kids movies. Mm-hmm. Parents will bring their kids to movies, if anything, just to get them to shut up for 2 hours. So here, play this video game, go. And I think I'm hoping that this is a inflection point for Sony to start not getting rid of like the sad dad simulators, as they're called often, or like the over the shoulder third person action games. I still think that's what they do best, but like hopefully this like kind of reignites the way PlayStation used to be a little bit, where it's like we're making weird off the wall kind of shit that might not sell 15 million, but it's going to produce bring a younger audience in, a different audience, just a different vibe.
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
Yeah, it's
well done, Astro.
But yeah, I don't spin-offs. I don't know, but yeah, sequel to this game for sure. That is 100% going to happen. Especially if game, like I said, if a game of the year happens and you got Team Asobi on stage, that is something else.
All right, now everybody who's listening to Nick and I talked about this game, I want you to write in an email yelling at Nick because he won't take my PSVR to go play Astro Bot's Rescue Mission, which get ready for this, Nick. I think is better.
Okay.
So just saying, it's probably not better, but it's the levels are way cooler designed. But if you ever want it, it's out there. So write in emails and berate him, please.
No thanks.
Yep. I don't know why, but okay. 10 out of 10 game. I don't want more of that. I don't want more of that.
I got too many games to play.
No, you don't. What are you playing?
I don't know yet.
Yeah, you little clown. All right.
All right. Let's move on to an email. Again, you can write in at betweenthejoysticks@gmail.com.
This is great.
And you'll get read on the show. And I did reach out to Freddie B to follow up on his email from last week. We were talking about platinum, so obviously we don't talk about platinums as much anymore here, but we do love getting them.
I feel like that's my fault.
And you're gonna get the platinum in Astro Bot. So I had to ask, where does Freddie B rank on our platinums, and what were some of his favorites?
Okay.
So he says, "Thank you both for answering my question. I don't have a ton of platinums. I'm only 18,
respectable.
But I'd say my favorites so far have been Ghost of Tsushima and God of War Ragnarok. I really enjoyed both of those quite a bit for different reasons. Ghost of Tsushima, I felt the platinum really made you explore the map, and you got to see the beautiful vistas by doing so. God of War, it felt like a challenge beating the Berserkers and a sense of satisfaction for the silly online nonsense trophy. I know you guys have talked about it, but what is your favorite platinum?"
Wait. Silly online nonsense trophy for God of War?
No. The platinum trophy is not
Oh.
doesn't really mean much.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. I was like, wait, what? Yeah, you're right, though.
If you want to hear a bummer of a platinum story, I'm one trophy short for the platinum in the division, but since the online servers aren't active for the first game, I can't get it. It's kill 20 rogues in the dark zone or something like that, and I was at like 18.
Oh, yeah, I got one of those, Far Cry 4. I think I could still technically get it, but I'd have to like go on the Far Cry 4 forum and like time up with a random person. No, I'm good. So what was our favorite platinum? That's what he's...
Yeah, what is your favorite platinum? I mean, if you get Astro Bot,
Will that be my favorite?
Yeah.
No, because there's a sense of difficulty that can add into it for me.
Sure.
So for me, my two are probably Cuphead and Neon White. Hades is up there too, just from the experience of it.
Here we go.
Was great.
You can't just pick one.
I know. Neon White's probably the one though. If I were to say, it was just...
Yeah, beating the whole game in one run is...
Yeah, I'm not gonna go into a Neon White diatribe here, but Freddie, if you've never heard of that game, if you've just recently started listening to us post me talking or Nick talking about that game, really, 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 really special. So check that one out. But yeah, I mean, Descenders is legendary for its own reasons, but not my favorite.
Okay.
And then you got Returnal, you bitch.
Yeah, that was a satisfying one to get because it took forever.
Yeah, the moment you saw that last rune, you're like,
but I definitely love having the platinum and all of the trophies for Cyberpunk 2077. Having every one of those is satisfying because there's a very big story. Like I would love Red Dead Redemption 2s. I would love The Witcher 3. A lot of those games are just too difficult or take too much time. Yeah. So when I do get a trophy like that for a game that I consider to be one of the best games I've ever played, it just adds to the trophy. So.
Yeah, I'll be curious what your Grand Theft Auto 6 trophy brain will do. Obviously
it's probably impossible.
Yeah, it's probably gonna have a lot of online shit. Hey Freddie, while I'm thinking about it, if you don't mind, if you'd like, write in with your PSN name. We can add you as friends. We kind of look at all our trophy lists and stuff like that, see what you're playing. If you want, you don't have to, but just throwing that out there.
We won't judge.
Yep. Harshly.
And he wrote in again.
Whoa!
So we have another email, and it's a good question because it ties into Astro Bot. Okay. Me again. Sorry to keep sending in questions, but I like your guys' takes, and I'm pretty sure this story came out after your previous podcast. Either that or I zoned out and missed your convo about it or something. I'm sure you both saw that the Sony CFO said they don't make enough IPs this past week with the Financial Times. After thinking about it, I kind of agree, but maybe disagree at the same time. When I think about upcoming Sony games, I'm thinking about Uncharted 5, Ghost of Tsushima 2, Bloodborne 2, I hope, Last of Us 3, not anytime soon, God of War 6.
A weird way to put it, but yes.
Etc. My point is that these are all sequels. I don't see anything new/original. At the same time, they've tried new IP that they didn't deem commercial success, Days Gone and Concord as an example. They do have a list of IPs that can go back like Killzone, Resistance, Infamous, but that kind of goes back to the previous issue of these aren't really new IPs. I know creating new and exciting IP is difficult, but do you guys think Sony has an issue with an original IP? I'd say that they have a small problem, but not overtly so, because they've created some of the above-listed series in the past 5 to 6 years. But currently, for the future, I don't see anything new.
An incredibly good take.
Yeah, so we just got done playing a game that kind of showcased the Sony franchises. We do have a new game coming in Wolverine from Insomniac, and we do not know what Cory Barlog, the creative director of the original God of War 2018, he is working on at Sony Santa Monica, and all signs point to a new franchise of some sci-fi nature.
Yeah.
But do you think this is a problem? Do you think Sony needs to start letting their teams get away from sequels? Sucker Punch, moved on to Ghost of Tsushima, and that was very successful.
Yeah, I mean, I personally love to see a this one then that one type philosophy, or it's like we're gonna do a sequel, then we're gonna go do something original, we're gonna do a sequel, but like that's obviously not happening to the degree that it used to. I mean, obviously, we've mentioned just development times being what they are, risk aversion being a thing in the industry now, the amount of money that it takes to make games. So, these people and investors, they need to see profits back. So inherently they're going to go back to things that they know sell a little bit more. So I do agree on that sense that, like, yeah, they do have a little bit of an IP issue, but I would also say that that's not an exclusively Sony problem. It's just kind of how games are nowadays. Even
entertainment in general.
Yeah, entertainment in general, right? I've talked about movies and how much I hate just that we're on Fast and the Furious 11 or whatever the case is, and that just keeps being what
Moana 2.
Yeah, that just
Beetlejuice.
Yeah, that's how we work as human beings. But, it's just, even if you look at Nintendo, though, it's like, every single year when we get the big Nintendo games, it's a Zelda game, it's a Mario game, it's a Pokemon game, it's an Animal Crossing game. Very rarely is it a new IP like a Scarlet Nexus or something like that. And
what's that strong arm one? That
Arms.
Arms.
Yeah, just Arms. So it's not exclusively an issue I think that they have, but they cannot ignore it, right? And I think the game we just discussed is a proof where Astro Bot is an existing IP. It's been around since the Playroom on PS4, which was like 2014, but I would argue that this was the first time where they put the full force of Sony behind it and lifted it into that spotlight to become a tentpole franchise. So I do think they need to keep going down that path, but I don't think it's anything urgent. I don't think it's anything that's going to damage the brand if they don't, but it provides a more well-rounded circular pie, right, that's reaching into families and dads like me who wants to play a God of War every once in a while, but now we have the Astro Bot for the kids. And if they can just keep rounding that off, I think that's almost more important than having IP specifically. You just want to make sure you're trying to touch as many people in the audience as you can. And I think they do a good job of that. Spider-Man is obviously reaching a little more into that world. But it's a very tough thing to do when you have 20-ish studios. Each of those studios takes 5 years to develop a game, if you're lucky, and you need to continuously make profits. So you need to make a good chunk of those, established IPs. But, I think Sony would love to get one of their live service things off the ground because then they have way more funds that they could maybe take more risks with and things. I think there's so many different threads to pull at with it. But, I think they're good. Not great, and I think we'll continue to see them push forward with that, and try and maybe make some smart second party partnerships that they can try and not necessarily have the IP, they don't own the IP, but people associate it with PlayStation, maybe like a Eve from Stellar Blade or something like that.
Yeah, as you mentioned, a lot of these franchises are still in their infancy. Ghost of Tsushima, if it gets a sequel, that is a new one. We know, Horizon is a change from Killzone.
Returnal.
Returnal from Housemarque. So I think those games are going to come. I think we'll have to sit through The Last of Us 3, Horizon 3. Yeah. God of War this saga is complete, so their next game, I'm assuming, will not be God of War, but they'll eventually come back. That just sucks. Like we mentioned, development time being 5 years.
Yeah.
It feels like we gotta wait. Like, I want to play Wolverine so bad. Why do I gotta wait another 2 years to play it?
I think studios are trying to figure that out right now. They're trying to see an Astro Bot apparently taking 3 years with a team of 68 people is a great example for how you can kind of do this, and hopefully studios take note. But it's just, I think the only way you kind of get through it is staffing up these teams, making separate teams that can kind of get multiple projects going at one time, but we also see all these teams getting laid off left and right, so that's a risky move because you can't just continuously employ these people and continue to pay them when you haven't released a product in 5-6 years. It's just it's such a tricky thing, and hopefully we're in some sort of balancing arc right now where it's gonna level itself out and we can kind of go back to. Because I think anybody who's playing video games for 20, 25 years remembers how it used to be, where you just get, what the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? That looks crazy. What is this? But
that still happens.
It's still happening.
It's just not from Sony. You have indies and other publishers filling the filling the space there. But I'm not too worried about it with Sony. Despite their roller coaster of a week, they're in a great spot. as far as being one of the big platform leaders. And
we got Stray. Stray's a new IP.
And, as Microsoft starts publishing more games, I think the breadth of games that you'll be able to get on a PlayStation will fill in the gap while you're waiting for all the sequels and then the eventual new IPs coming from Sony itself. So
yeah,
there's no shortage of games, that's for sure.
Nope.
Even with Sony releasing one a year now, 2 technically this year.
Yeah.
1 last year in Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's not. They don't come very much. So make sure you go buy Astro Bot. Support that little robot. He needs us. He was there for us. We need to be there for him.
But thanks again for writing in, Freddie.
Good question, Freddie.
Again, when you have a thought, write in. We'll read it. Appreciate it. All right. Let's move on. I wanted to put the cap on Star Wars Outlaws.
Ah, yes. I forgot.
I beat it before I started Astro Bot, the night before, actually. And everything I said kind of sticks. It's doing a lot of things. A lot of things are just mediocre to okay. The gameplay's okay. I will say the plot and the characters are a strong point. Good. I think it reaches a really good conclusion. I will, however, I didn't mention this last week, but spending more time with Kay Vess. Not a big fan of the voice actress, Humberly Gonzalez.
Humberly?
Humberly, Humberly.
Okay. Yeah, she sounded a little flat.
Yeah,
in some of the trailers.
Yeah, she does a lot of talking, and it just feels awkward and not as engaging as all the other characters in the game are.
She's no Cal Kestis?
No Cal Kestis, that's for sure.
Okay.
And I had this thought too when I'm playing the game, and it's an infinite game, right? You can play this game infinitely. You'll never run out of contracts to do. That I really wish it had a character creator. If you're going to have a game that's endless and about immersion and really getting you sucked into the Star Wars universe and want to do endless missions, get your rep up, get your credits up, so spend a lot of time in there. I really think they should have gone the character creator route instead.
Sure.
Completely customize your character, make it the Star Wars character you want in this galaxy. And it's just one of those things I want more.
You can't profit off of that. You can't make toys off that. You can't. I'm just kidding.
That's true. I mean, if you're missing out on the K-Vest toy.
Sure am, man.
But I just it's just something I come back to when I think about, like, if Dragon Age is good, it's like, well, it'll be my character. And last year's Baldur's Gate and Cyberpunk and a lot of these big games that want you to get lost and immerse in their world. It's like having ownership of the character there helps a lot. Especially, like I said, if you're not going to tell a straight story,
right?
That would help. So
okay.
So I'm sitting at, I think this is a 7 out of 10 game. If you're a Star Wars fan, it bumps it up to an 8 because of that immersion, that attention to detail, the music, the sound effects. That all is amazing. But I think if you're John playing the game, this is a skip for him.
Yeah.
And it's a shame.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping this would be like a 9 for you. But it's Ubisoft, man. It's Ubisoft.
Yeah, definitely one of the bigger disappointments outside of Suicide Squad is that this game wasn't as good as it could have been.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how it's sold and all that stuff. I imagine large amounts of first day sales and very soft afterwards would be my guess.
Yeah, especially hitting the gate at a 76. People on the fence are. There are so many games to play right now. Mm-hmm.
Go play Astro Bot.
Yeah, exactly. Go play Astro Bot. So we'll put a lid on that. We'll see. Maybe I'll come back. It has 2 very promising DLCs coming.
Well, if you like the story, you're gonna want to see those.
Yeah, one with Lando and then one with Hondo. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We know a guy who loves Hondo.
But guess the price of the season pass for this game.
$39.99.
You guess that because I'm asking, right?
Yeah, because
it
you
is.
Asked.
It's $40.
Yeah,
that's huge.
It should be like 20.
Yeah, when
what's the time frame of this one? Is it the same time? Is Cal Kestis existing in this, like, is it the same time frame?
No, this is well.
So they're not.
Again, where Jedi Survivor ends it's a little. This is after that.
Okay, so they're not trying to build a universe.
No.
Okay.
I
guess those are different teams also. So whatever.
Yeah, Electronic Arts and
yeah.
But it's cool. So again, Star Wars is such a great location, a world to build a game in. Just I hope to see more games.
Just not by Ubisoft.
They're definitely not on my great list. I definitely brought my hype for Shadows down.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
You employ 20,000 people. What are you guys doing?
But then again, I'm excited to play Lost Crown. So at least
Yeah,
they got one thing.
Yeah, well, they got the Rayman team.
And that's probably that's possible Game of the Year candidate.
What, Montpellier, I think.
But yeah. We can move on.
Let's do it.
All right, our last topic today is we're going to continue our Game of the Year talk. Again, we're going backwards. We did 2021 last week. We're going to do 2020 this week. And again, 2020 was an interesting year. It was the year of COVID, and that you would have thought shook up the industry. But again, that was the PlayStation 5 launch year, the Xbox Series X launch year, and a bunch of amazing games also debuted that year. So this is going to be a little tighter to pick, the top three.
Yeah,
but
I was pleased when you told me how many honorable mentions you had because me, I can't whittle my list down. So,
do you want to go through those first?
Sure. I mean, and I have mine ordered because I'm a psycho, but I know you don't. At least for you have the top three, right?
Yeah, my top three, but
all right. So yeah, I'll just start with Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I talked about this like a couple weeks ago. It's just. It's top tier Metroidvania shit. Looking at that game on my OLED TV is incredibly crazy. It's the most jarring example of brightness on a screen I've ever seen. It's weird to even try and describe. But
did you roll credits on that?
I didn't roll credits on it, no. But I rolled credits on the first one, and I got probably 75% through this one, I would say. So. Enough to make a decision on it, but yeah, that game's great. I would love to see those come to PlayStation. I'd play them. I'd platinum them.
Okay. I didn't play this game that year, but Spiritfarer is an amazing game. Their upcoming game, 33 Immortals, looks very interesting. But Spiritfarer is just great. We talked about it on this show because by the time I had gotten to it, we were doing this show, so I don't want to expand on it further. But
it's what, Thunder Lotus?
Yes, Thunder Lotus. Very cozy game, and we talked about it when we talked earlier this year. We talked about death and games that dealt with death appropriately, and I think this is definitely one of those games. If you've ever had to deal with the death of a loved one, this is a great game about processing that.
You timed this one interestingly in your life too, didn't you?
No, it came to extra.
Oh,
that's when I played it.
But it wasn't around your dog.
No.
Oh, okay. I thought it was.
No.
Okay. My next one, Tony Hawk 1 and 2 remake. I am born in 1989. When the Tony Hawk Pro Skater came out, I was like 10. It was the perfect gaming experience for that age, and to see them bring them forward as awesome as they did was great to see, and kind of want to see 3 and 4 now. I don't know why. I think they said that they were going to do those, and then it got canceled when what studio is that? Vicarious Visions, maybe? I can't remember who did this. I think it got bought by Activision, and then they got roped into the Call of Duty machine.
Yeah.
But no, those games are great. I haven't played it in a minute, but it is a game that I'll put on with my son, and we'll just mess around with it for a little bit. Good stuff.
Good choice. Again, another game I didn't play that year, but came out that year. I never played these games before, but Yakuza Like a Dragon, the Ryuga Gotoku,
Ryuga Gotoku? God damn it.
Eighth entry? Yeah, 8th entry into the Yakuza franchise, where they mixed things up, made it a tactical turn-based.
I think it's the 7th.
Maybe
so
right.
I think Infinite Wealth's 8.
Okay. And just again, I talked about it on the show. Great characters, unusual characters. Older, middle-aged men in your party, not flamboyant, feminine-looking JRPG characters, and just a great sense of humor, a bunch of mini games. Just a game that will keep you surprised the whole way through, and an amazing ending. I really liked how that game ended.
I can see that being a permanent backlog game for me until I eventually get to it. It was like Yakuza 0, I think came out in like 2016. That's the only Yakuza game I've played, but I probably played it in 2019, 2020, and the graphics could look bad or anything like that, but that doesn't really matter with this game. It's all about just the vibe and just the silliness of it all. Good stuff. Number 7, continuing my remake trend, I guess. Demon Souls, launch title for PS5. It's still to this day one of the better looking games on the console, and I'm a Souls junkie. So, as somebody who played the game when it first released, I was one of those weirdos that actually played Demon Souls before Dark Souls came out. So, I am a true gamer. But again, really nice to see this brought forward. Great port, great job done by Bluepoint. Now first party owned team Bluepoint. Yep.
Where's their next game?
I don't know, but I will be right there. Day one.
This is an easy one. Astro's Playroom. I'll just leave it at that.
Sure.
Pack in with the PlayStation 5.
I got Miles Morales coming in at 6. I loved 2018 Spider-Man. But I think this one was more fun and played better. The story fell a little short of the first one, but anybody who knows me knows I like gameplay first. So, it was just a ton of fun. Nice short experience, $40, perfectly priced. Great launch title, fun with my son. Miles is dope. He's better than Peter. Book it.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Next up, I have my favorite brawler of all time, and that's Streets of Rage 4. I should have wrote down who made it. I'm sorry, but it's great.
Dotamu?
The art is incredible. It feels good. The DLC is great. The other characters you get to play, and they have constantly been updated. I think they updated it. You got it right.
You got it right. Dotamu.
I think it had an update as late last year. It got another update. So overall, just a great. Like, I like it more than what the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles one. Scott Pilgrim Saves the World. Beats all those. It's my favorite one.
Yeah, this and the Turtles game, but more this one. I used to be beat 'em ups are stupid. Like, that used to be me. I was like, why would anybody want to play beat 'em ups? This is like the oldest, like
mindless.
Yeah, mindless, like 1991 Golden Axe bullshit. But it really showed me like, no, there's a lot more to these kind of games than I gave them credit for. Super great choice. Great game. Number 5 for me, because I ordered them like an idiot. Final Fantasy VII Remake.
It's a boondoggle.
That's a boondoggle?
Yep.
That's a boondoggle. So that's, obviously the remake. Man, I got a lot of remakes on this list. But I would say this is more of a new thing than a remake. But
yeah, it actually happened.
Yeah, it happened. It was one of those, I played the demo for 2 seconds. I was like, yep, we're good. We're good, and I think I deleted the demo, pre-ordered this game. I think it was the first game that I bought digitally, like a first AAA big game, because it was COVID.
Yeah,
I couldn't go to the store or something.
I have it digitally too.
Do you? Yeah. So, I'll always own that one. But really, really solid. I still have yet to get through Rebirth, but I feel like at this point I should probably just go play that one again, just in roll into it because I don't remember anything. But good.
Yeah, definitely Rebirth. Kind of, looking back on this game. I mean, I'm glad obviously it exists because we got Rebirth, but I mean, this game was taking the first 6 hours of the original and then extending it over, 30 to 40 hours. So, So a lot of the weakest points were the stuff they added to make filler, and then of course all the best moments of that game were from the original. But it exists. It's amazing. The voice acting is amazing. It's a very, very pretty game, and yeah, I cannot believe it exists.
Yeah.
And it came out.
But we don't have an Astro Bot Barrett.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, we'll get him.
All right, my last mention is 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. I didn't play this game in 2020, but this was a game John just was like, I don't know why. How'd you end up getting it? It reviewed well.
Yeah,
This is a Vanillaware game, the makers of Unicorn Overlord, earlier this year.
I think it was just like I really liked Odin Sphere Life Thrasher, and that was just an era of me pre my daughters. And I was just buying a lot more random things. And so if I saw a game, I think it's like an 88 on OpenCritic, something really high. And so I was just like, yeah, let's give this a shot. And it was so wholly unique, art style gorgeous, and then like a fun little robot mini game kind of thing you would do too. I was like, yeah, this is worth a recommendation to you.
No, I loved it.
Yeah,
it's a very weird story involving time travel and
I don't remember half
timey-wimey stuff that has you jumping in. But yeah, you play a bunch of different characters, and the story is some pretty good sci-fi. And yeah, the actual combat that you would do is fun.
Yeah, I thought I was gonna hate it when I first started, and I was like, oh no, I kind of dig just the flow of all this. It wasn't hard, but it was fun. All right, so my last mention, Ghost of Tsushima.
It's a boondoggle
from Sucker Punch Studios. One of the, speaking of pretty games, just like the ambiance and environments are top notch. The speed loading was revolutionary at the time.
Unbelievable.
I couldn't believe how fast that game loaded on the PS4. It's PS5 levels of speed. And then probably the greatest navigational tool that's ever been in a game, in my opinion, with the wind system. It's just
minimal UI, man.
Yeah, it just creates such a organic experience running through that world. And then, and then like the little bits that it has with the, the poetry or the little foxes or taking a hot bath in a hot spring and then like a pretty solid story alongside all of it. It was just, your typical. Anytime Sony does like a Ubisoft open world style formula, they just knock it out of the park. Like,
right.
If you like those kind of games,
Sucker Punch does.
Horizon, Infamous, those kind of stuff. It's just it's like a Ubisoft game, but just better in every way. So, really good stuff.
Yeah, just waiting on that sequel. That is my number 3. So
okay, my number 3 is Doom Eternal. Coming out on the same day as Animal Crossing, kind of took the internet by storm for a little bit of time. They obviously much different games, but this took everything that made Doom 2016 great and just ramped it up to 11. The inclusion of the grapple hook shotgun thing is just the stuff that Doom is made. That's why you play Doom, is so you can grapple a demon, pull him to you, and just shotgun him and blow his body in half. But it added a lot of verticality, a lot of traversal kind of things to it too, which I always enjoy. And I just think Doom is one of the greatest. Alongside God of War, is probably the greatest example of bringing a franchise forward, modernizing it, and then reinventing it and giving it new life. It's good stuff.
Yeah,
I say it's good stuff at the end of everything.
That next game is going to be huge.
Yeah, Dark Ages looks really cool. But yeah, speaking of things that you just do in Doom, chainsaw shield. Let's go.
Right. Seems like a no-brainer, but yeah, I can't. The Doom the Dark Ages trailer. Good God.
Mm-hmm. God, I forgot about the dragon blowing like lasers down the dragon's throat or whatever.
But and what I like about the Doom the Dark Ages is it's kind of reinventing things. I did not play Doom Eternal, so I was kind of done with that formula. But I think if you the coat of paint they're putting on it and the other stuff that you mentioned, the dragon and the giant bot fighting, that I'm excited for at least the next game.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we got our 2 or 1. Well, this will be interesting. I'm sure we share the same 2.
We do.
It's gonna be Hades. Is Hades your number 2?
Nope.
So it's your number 1?
Yep.
Go ahead then. You can own this one.
Okay. Hades is everything that I love about video games, all in one. It's the best control scheme I've ever felt, really. I mean, up there with Returnal and these other, just Astro Bot, honestly, those very, very tight controls. But everything that it does, it blows out of the water, much like we were talking about with Astro Bot. But like the voice acting, the story, the graphics,
art, man.
The art is unreal, and just the weapon system at play and the upgrade systems and the way that things work with one another and the boons, and it's just there's games that capture me in many different ways, whether that's through the story, the characters. This has every single part of it, and it's just a joy to play. I mentioned earlier it's one of my favorite platinums because every single trophy I was going for, whether it was talking to Patroclus enough to get his final, I don't even remember what they're called, but like you kind of talk to everybody, and then they eventually give you the last version of a thing, a gift. Going through that was fun, or going through and trying to beat it 10 times. Everything about it was just just an awesome fucking experience, and I can't wait for the second one. It's my number one most anticipated game. Dude, I've even even wrestled with the idea that this is my favorite game of all time. Like, it's that level for me.
Sure.
It doesn't quite get there, but it's just, if you evaluate games on the different tent poles, it's a 10 in probably everything for me. Whereas like Last of Us 2 is a 10 in almost everything, but like, probably it's like a 9 when it comes to like gameplay and stuff like that. So
Blasphemy.
yeah, I know. I know. Story's not as good as The Last of Us 2, but I just gameplay is king, my man. Gameplay is king.
Yeah, they really hit it out of the park, and just really, again, a game that's benefiting from early access. Now its sequel, this game obviously benefited from early access as well, and it was a bummer that, again, Nintendo sniped this one, so I didn't get to play it till the next year. But the same thing, just loving the different builds, the different weapons, and just everything was perfect. Mm-hmm. Like the story reason why you kept having to play these runs, all the characters you would meet.
Kind of similar to Astro Bot, the homeworld felt very lived in. Like as you would keep going, you kind of unlock more things in the world, and then it filled up with characters, and it filled up with animations and all this other stuff that kind of just kept you in it.
Right, and that just slow build up because roguelike's all about repetition, a run after a run after a run, and then just having not only just the simple stuff, your character getting stronger bit by bit after every run, but yeah, the world unlocking more things to do, more customization, and stuff like that, and just the depth of what you can do in that game that I can't even imagine Hades 2 with having it being able to go up or down on top of everything that it's going to have.
Yeah, I'm very curious about that because, it's been in early access for a while, so I know people that have played it, and everybody says it plays much different than, it's obviously more magic-based, and I think a little slower. You have to be more deliberate. You can't just kind of like dash all over the place and slice everything. But I have no doubt with that team. Supergiant is top tier. Best indie team in the world in my book.
Yeah. And obviously, this game was very well received enough to get a sequel, which Supergiant,
their first sequel,
had never done before that. So, obviously, number 1 for me and number 2 for you is The Last of Us Part 2, which, had a very interesting 2020 with the leak and all that, and them having to delay the game because of COVID, and it just kind of a wild ride. But when you finally got the sequel to one of a lot of people considered the greatest game of all time, The Last of Us, and it delivering in every way, just being the best game Naughty Dog has ever made to play, but also just a story you remember. Like, we talk about Ghost of Tsushima, we talk about Hades, we talk about FF7 Remake. You remember bits and pieces, but there are very few games where you remember the whole ride, because the whole ride is just insane with crazy character moments that that are going to drive you to do terrible things to terrible people that are very well animated and very gross. It's just incredible. Like, man, you had to sit down after finishing this game.
Yeah, no, good call bringing up the remembrance, and I have a pretty shoddy memory as it is, but like we mentioned, 13 Sentinels, I couldn't tell you anything about that, but I can pretty much walk you through the big beats of that game easily, which and then makes us so excited for the HBO season 2 coming up here soon.
Yep. God, next year, man.
Yeah, next year's gonna be good from a media standpoint. I mean, this is if I were to give Hades my game of the year, I mean, The Last of Us 2 probably gets my story award for any game of all time. And I know a lot of people didn't like the pacing, and I get that. I think that could have maybe been done executed a little bit better. But just from a Abby, for instance, right? We're not going to spoil it. I won't spoil anything, but like. When you start playing as her, I made her crawl through dirt. I launched her off buildings. I wanted her to die. And by the end of it, I fully sympathize with what she was going through. And I know that not everybody kind of gets there, but I did. And it was, it's just a masterclass of making you feel like ways that you kind of don't any longer, at least in my age, where I'm just like, yeah, everything sucks or whatever, who cares? And then you kind of go through this, and it's just, it really, really grounds you and kind of makes you realize, like, okay, well, at least I'm not going through that.
Right. Just, again, one of the most memorable gaming experiences of all time. So, that's why we had to bring it.
It's going to make, when The Last of Us 3 inevitably comes out, it's going to be so annoying listening to people. I'm just going to have to go off the internet for a while.
Yeah, it's coming. Yeah, it's for sure coming. So, not officially. That's just the gut.
All right. So somebody tell us, you know what, and I'll even give Nick a bone here, just because when we did rank our top 50 games of all time, I think we had Last of Us number 2. So I can give that game of the year.
No, you're fine.
If we want to,
I mean, we're looking at it in a lens of like, going back. So it's fine if you're like, well, Hades sticks with me. Everything it did is just incredible. And like you said, if your most anticipated game is.
I mean, if you put Hades 2 in front of me and The Last of Us 3 in front of me, I'm grabbing Hades 2 easily first.
And you just made me think about it. So there's an asterisk to this.
Oh,
I forgot. Cyberpunk did come out that year, but that version of Cyberpunk I would not have. But if Cyberpunk launched as what it is now, then that would have been my number one for sure.
You're the grossest human being. God. I understand liking it, but to put it above The Last of Us, it's crazy.
Cyberpunk's my favorite game this generation. So
crazy.
You're crazy.
You're crazy.
You're crazy. All right. We did it. That's everything we brought for you today.
You're crazy.
So, teases.
No
John's
song,
what?
No song at the end of the show, apparently.
What? What do you mean? I got a song.
Oh, you did? You got a backup?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, okay. Oh.
It's another Astro Bot song.
Oh, yeah, perfect. So wait, so did they release the whole thing on Spotify?
No, I'll have to get this from YouTube, but it's
okay.
fine.
You can figure it out. Okay.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Well, since he's bringing it up now, the song is called "Crash Site" from Astro Bot by Kenneth C.M. Young. It's got this old Western vibe and with a good time. Let's go. It hypes you up.
Yeah.
When you're playing around with all your VIP bots and whistling and dancing with them.
You're going to really throw shade to the non-VIP bots like that, huh? Man, they're bots too.
They're not as exciting. They all look the same.
They're bots too.
Yeah, I know.
They help you build that bridge when you need them.
They do.
Okay, yeah, so for me, obviously, I'll be platinuming Astro Bot. I hope to do that tonight, but if not tonight, it'll be tomorrow. And then right back into Lost Crown. I'm still probably about 60% of the way through that. So I want to get that wrapped up. And then I don't know. Then I don't quite know.
Fair enough.
But
games are coming. Plucky Squire next week. We'll see how that does. There'll definitely be games coming that'll try and draw your attention.
Yeah.
So
I was looking at Nier Replicant again for some reason.
Okay.
Just I feel like I beat it, but why don't I love it as much as Automata? I need to figure that out.
Sure. Some self-discovery.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, by next episode, it could be state of play. Like, we know the turnaround things. These are ridiculous.
Yeah, they announce it tomorrow and do it Thursday.
Yep, that could definitely be the cadence, and especially when you're
quick. They don't like the $700. Put out the state of play,
which would be very interesting because what would they talk about in the state of play? Of course, they have Silent Hill 2 coming,
maybe some
and Until Dawn, but I'm assuming you would kind of touch on things coming next year if you're doing a state of play.
They fucking better, man. They fucking better.
I believe this one last year did have Rebirth, and it ended on Rebirth. So
yeah, I mean, the rumors all indicate that this is a quote unquote big one. So I would expect a first party announcement from somebody of something we don't know.
That would be
huge. That's a bare minimum.
That would be huge.
If I don't get that, I will walk away disappointed.
Well, maybe some more indie games will show.
I'm still gonna be disappointed.
Okay.
All
right. If Hollow Knight or Mina the Hollower show up.
Yeah.
This was probably
All
our
right.
last chance for
Wait,
Hollow
when
Knight
did-
this
okay.
year.
No, Hollow Knight came out not in 2020. I was like, wait a minute, did I forget one? No, that was like 2018, I think.
All right. So enjoy the song. Go out there, play Astro Bot.
Yes.
Please
Do it.
If you have the ability to do so, you have a PlayStation 5. You need to be playing this game.
I can safely say it right now, Nick. I don't know if you want to push back at all. This is going in the top 10 PlayStation 5 games you must play.
Yeah,
It's definitely going in there. So
come December,
check it
because we
now.
kind of do these things every 6 months. The hard part will be kicking a game out.
Is-
So
Playroom still in it? Because if it is,
No,
it's not
it's
hard
not.
to kick out at all. Okay.
no, it is not in it.
Bummer.
So
All right.
yeah,
Okay.
enjoy the game. Thank you for listening in this PlayStation themed episode. The PlayStation pals will retire for a little bit, but they'll be back,
Until the
especially if
state
there's
of
a state of play. All right. Again, we love you. Thank you for listening. And of course, we will be back next week with another episode of Between the Joysticks. Bye, guys.
Later.